What's going on, people? I hope everybody is doing good. So I wanted to hop on here real quick and share my thoughts on the food stamp situation and the government shutdown, etc. Okay. Today is November 1st. I believe that food stamps have been stopped or partially stopped, etc. I believe the White House is now trying to come up with a resolution to fund the food stamps program, etc., due to the fact that two federal judges have ordered them to do so. But before I dive into my thoughts on this, both the food stamps and the government shutdown, I want you all to check out this news clip that I came across. So right now, during this news clip, I want you all to hear what this guy had to say about two federal judges ordering the White House to fund the food stamps program. Check out this clip, and then I'm going to come back with my commentary. Stick around because I'm definitely going somewhere with it. Here we go.
The government shutdown hitting 1 month this morning, leaving nearly 42 million Americans who rely on food benefits without enough to eat.
We can't live in a country that's this wealthy and have people starving. It's just not okay at all.
The federal food assistance program, known as SNAP, runs out today, but the Trump administration may be forced to shift federal dollars around to pay for it. After a last-minute ruling from two federal judges who said the White House is required by law to use emergency funds. The president late Friday saying it would be his honor to provide the funding, instructing lawyers to clarify how we can legally fund SNAP as soon as possible. The administration had been claiming it legally could not use the contingency funds to pay SNAP benefits during the shutdown, even though they found a way to pay the troops.
I think that liberal judges weren't correct on this ruling. I think that our legal analysis is that we have to use the emergency money for emergencies.
Okay, did you all catch what this guy had to say? Did you all catch it? This dude just said, hey, from his understanding, those emergency funds that the White House has just laying around, that should be used for emergencies only, right? Not funding hunger. Yeah, that's pretty much what he said. Listen to him again.
I think that liberal judges weren't correct on this ruling. I think that our legal analysis is that we have to use the emergency money for emergencies.
Yeah, that's what he said. That's what he was alluding to. So, hungry people is not an emergency. Even though hunger brings crime and criminality, that's not an emergency. People not eating is not an emergency. I've said it time and time again, man. You have a lot of wicked, mean-spirited, hateful, cruel people in the world, in government. Okay? They work as attorneys, etc. These people are very mean-spirited. And I bet you any kind of money that dude claims to be a Christian or some sort of person of the faith. Guarantee it. Okay? Speaking of Christians, man, it's a lot of Christians who believe that SNAP benefits should be cut and gloating about it, about people possibly going hungry and not having the means to get food, etc. Okay? During this government shutdown, there are families out here wondering how they're going to eat. Mothers, fathers, children, elderly folks, etc. Homeless veterans who depend on SNAP benefits, food stamps to make it through. And you have some Christian Trumpers, okay, who are okay with those people going hungry, even though they want to crack down on crime and criminality. What's sad about that is that some of the loudest voices talking about cutting off those benefits come from people who proclaim to be people of faith, who sit in church every Sunday or every Saturday, whenever you go, right? Raising their hands in worship, speaking in tongues, etc. but will celebrate people not having food to eat. Let that sink in. Let me let you all know something, man. If you are okay with seeing people go hungry, you're not walking with Christ at all. You're actually walking contrary to Jesus Christ. Okay? Why do I say that? Any Christian, any person of the faith, any person who claims to be a follower of Christ, whether you support Trump or not, if you are okay with seeing SNAP benefits taken away from people, then you are walking contrary to Christ. Jesus himself said, you ready for this? The poor you will always have. Matthew 26:11. Right? Mark 14:7. John 12:8. Right? Jesus Christ said out of his own mouth, the poor you will always have. So walking around here thinking that if they just get a job, everything will be okay. Well, that's not going to fly like that, because if 100,000 people who receive SNAP benefits get a job and they suddenly don't need SNAP benefits anymore, then guess what? Another 100,000 is going to come behind them, because Jesus Christ himself said the poor will always be with you. Always. Christ was reminding his followers that helping the poor is an ongoing duty. Is an ongoing duty. If you can do it, do it. If you can fund it, fund it. Okay? He didn't say just talk about it. He commanded it. If you go to Matthew 25:35, Jesus said, for I was hungry and you have gave me something to eat. I was thirsty and you gave me something to drink. And he added, whatever you do for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me, etc. You have Christians walking around here celebrating people not being able to eat, when Jesus Christ himself said you shouldn't do that. This is how I know. See, listen, stop allowing people to make you think that they're good people by just bringing up God, talking about Jesus, talking about their faith, going to church, etc. That's all good. But when all of that is said and done, look at the fruits of people. Look at the actions of people. Look at the words of people. That is how you know who they are. You will know them by the fruit they bear, not by how many times they go to church, not by how many scriptures they quote, not by how they talk about God, not by how they talk about how they believe in Jesus Christ so much. You will know them by the fruit they bear. If you have these Christian Trumpers talking about they are followers of Christ, yet they have an issue feeding the poor, helping the needy, clothing the naked, then guess what? They are not following Christ at all. They're actually contrary of the faith. Right? So, if you clap your hands in church, but sit comfortably, knowing that children are hungry, you're not serving Christ. You're serving the devil. You're serving yourself. You're serving yourself. Also, you have people who say things like, hey, what about the people that's taking advantage of the system? You know, they're selling their food stamps and they're doing this with their stamps and they're not doing buying processed foods and all of that, as if you really care about that. Listen, man, sure, you have people who corrupt the system, of course. I'm sure you do have people who sell food stamps and, you know, do all kind of other stuff with food stamps, etc. Right? There are some people who abuse the system, lie, cheat, take advantage. But let's be real. Let's be real. There's corruption in every single field, right? You got cops who abuse the badge. You got doctors who push pills for profit. You got teachers who mistreat students and even lay with students, and you know what I mean. You got Fortune 500 companies that steal from taxpayers. You got pastors who misuse church money, right? You got executives and things like that who try to take advantage of people sexually to advance their careers. You have corruption in every field. But do you say, let's shut down every single police department? Do you stop going to hospitals? Do you stop funding schools? Of course not. So why is it that when poor families need help to eat, folks suddenly want to cancel the whole system because you got a couple people selling stamps? And these are people you will see in church on Sunday. Hey, Brother Ron, how you doing? Praise the Lord, brother. Yes, my God. I love the Lord. Love the Lord. No, you don't. No, you don't. What about people who say they're all about law and order and the criminality and we need to crack down on crime, etc.? And I agree. I dislike crime. I don't like crime. I don't like criminality. Puts people in danger, you know. Push your loved ones and stuff in danger. So I'm all for cracking down on real criminals. All for it. You know, long as it's real criminals. All right. But some people say they're all about that, you know, law and order. But they're fine with cutting off food stamps. That doesn't even make sense, man. If people can't eat, what do you think is going to happen? Desperation leads to crime. Hunger drives people mad. But when people are fed, when basic needs are met, there's less chaos, less violence, less desperation. You can't say you want to crack down on crime, but then laugh at people who are not able to eat because it just brings crime. Funding SNAP isn't just compassion, it's common sense. It's cheaper to feed people than to fight crime caused by hunger and poverty. Then you got people talking about, well, why don't people who receive SNAP benefits just get a job? Speaking of jobs, the government shutdown has caused a lot of people with jobs to lose their jobs. Thus, they now need SNAP benefits to eat. Okay. But for some reason, the weak argument is, oh, why don't they just get a job? Get a job. I've never met a person who's filled out a job application and got the job on the same day, went to work and got paid the same day. You know, you got to go through one interview. You got to go through another interview. You may have to go through 3 interviews before you're even on the clock. Well, what are you supposed to do about food before then? You filled out the job application on July 2nd. You're not going to be working until July 15th, but you're hungry on July 2nd. What do you do about food then? But according to some Christian people who are against SNAP benefits, you do nothing. You starve to death. Right? Also, many of the people who get SNAP benefits already have jobs. They're working. But those jobs don't pay enough. So instead of judging the worker, how about the employers? How about you hold the employers accountable to pay fair wages? Right? Because if jobs paid what they're supposed to, maybe the person wouldn't need SNAP benefits. And like I said, if 100,000 people got off SNAP today, there'll be another 100,000 people behind them tomorrow. because Jesus already told us the poor will always be with you. So this isn't just about laziness. It's about the reality of life, the cost of living in a world full of imbalance that God calls us to correct through love and compassion. Let's keep it 100, man. If you are okay with families starving, and if you get joy out of seeing people struggle to feed their kids, if you call yourself a Christian but hate seeing poor people get help, then it's time to check your heart and re-examine yourself, because that's not Christ. That's cold, that's wicked, that's mean-spirited, and Jesus of the Bible doesn't recognize that spirit. All right? When it's time to leave this earth, when it's time to leave this earth, God is not going to ask you how many political arguments you won. He's going to look at how you treated people. And if your walk lined up with his word, did you turn your back on the hungry? Did you poke fun at the hungry? And if you are a wicked person claiming to be a follower of Christ, you're going to find yourself separate from God at the end of it all. So instead of celebrating programs being frozen or cut, pray that food assistance stays flowing, because helping the poor is holy. Feeding the hungry is godly. Standing up for the needy is walking with Christ. And with that being said, man, I'm gone. Peace.